You have the other investors that don't have a W-2 income,
Right.
need cash flow. So they're gonna put the least amount of money down they can, finance for as long as they can, and they're going for cash flow. So there's a difference in cash flow. And let me say this: I don't care what anybody says. A $100,000 home may rent for $1,200 a month. A $500,000 home may rent for $4,000 a month or $3,500 a month. The cheaper the home, the more you're going to get rent for the value of that home.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. I have Mike Anderson with me with Reliance. I am excited, and I know I use that word a lot, but I don't know Mike. This is my first time meeting him. I hear he's a bit of a firecracker, so be prepared. You're going to have a man who's willing to state his opinion, who's been in the field for a very long time. He'll probably give you some straight poop on what it is that happens inside the field, and that's exactly my type of person. So Mike Anderson, as you can see, Reliance Mortgage Company, he is the founder and owner over at Reliance. Let me read you a little bit about him. What separated Mike from other owners is the fact he remains active in originating mortgage loans. He has been the top originator of Reliance every year, competing with as many as 80 full-time residential mortgage loan originators. Mike specializes in jumbo loans and out-of-the-box loans, many times using his many sources to close difficult loans that without his experience would not have closed. And you guys know how I am a great lover and believer in the problem solving that is necessary to make real estate successful and how experience can serve that. He has made every type of loan imaginable, ranging from $35,000 to $11.5 million. Mike received the Century 21 top listing salesperson in a 3-state region in 1971 to 1981. Yes, that is a decade, guys. And was named the 1995 Prestige Entrepreneur of the Year by Inc. magazine. He was listed in the Who's Who American Businessman of 2000 and was recently approved to teach Texas Real Estate Commission continuing education classes for realtors. For 16 years, Mike has hosted the Reliance Mortgage Real Estate Hour broadcast show weekly on CBS Radio. I have only been podcasting for maybe 6 years, Mike. You have me way outstretched there. Mike has also been a frequent guest speaker on other talk radio shows on many, many occasions. Mike, so wonderful to have you here.
Well, thank you. That resume sounds pretty good. I don't know if I really did all that stuff, but I think I did.
I think you did. I suspect you did.
When you get to be my age, 78 years old, and you run a fast track, because I've been working since I was 5, 6 years old, hustling for money, selling newspapers and that sort of thing when I was a little kid. And then I had a full-time job, maybe 9, 10 years old, and I've worked probably 60 hours a week forever. But I like working a lot. Let me say this. I've never made any easy money. I make it the old-fashioned way. I work for it. And there's a lot of things I can tell investors about buying single family homes and flipping them, and the difference, why some people do certain things on single family homes, whether they want to keep for rental property, whether they want to buy them and flip them. There's all kinds of things that tips that I can give investors.
I am sure there is. Give us a sense for the breadth of your background, because honestly, you've got so much background. I could probably just fill the whole show with that. So just give us a snippet. You've been in residential, you've been in multi-unit. What else have you covered, Mike?
Well, I'm currently building about 200 affordable homes in Dallas and the Metroplex. And they're priced anywhere from around $275 to $325. Then I also am building about 5 or 6 high-dollar homes in Highland Park area of Dallas, which is probably the nicest. It's like a Beverly Hills of California. Okay. And those houses are anywhere from $3.5 to $5 million. So I build those. And when I say build them, let me rephrase that. I don't know anything about building. I put the money up, find the lots, or builders find the lots for me, hire builders to build them for me. So I use 3 different builders that I trust, that I know that they've been around for a long time. I've done a lot of business with. I just put the money up, get the lines of credit, they build them, and we have some sort of profit arrangement where I pay them a fee to build the houses. So I've been doing that. And then I just finished a 75-unit RV park in Greenville, Texas. I'm currently going to start building a 424-unit mobile home park, also in Greenville. Then I'm in 3 or 4 developments I develop land. But the main thing I do is mortgage lending and investing in real estate. I don't buy single family homes anymore. quite frankly, because it takes a lot of time, and it's not the time involved in it. It takes a lot of time. You got to go out and do the repairs, which I didn't mind doing at all. But I just, quite frankly, don't have the time to do it anymore. But I can give people a lot of tips. I will say this.
Tell me.
In today's market,
Mm-hmm.
and I have problems with this, particularly with my younger people that I hire, where they like to text and email everything. They don't like to pick up the phone and call people. And I hammer the hell out of them all the time. I'm going, God damn it, pick up the phone and call people. And for you all out there that all you do want to do is text and email, I can tell you right now, I think you're making a big mistake. I'm 78 years old, and I've got 3 assistants that work for me that I can send out email and text all day long. But I actually prefer even if somebody's mad at me and thinks I've done wrong or thinks I didn't treat them right or whatever the reason may be. That's it. May not be my fault. Sometimes it is my fault. If it is, I'll take my ass chewing and going down the road. But there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and calling people. Another thing I found investors to do is a lot of investors read these books, how to make $1 million in, spending 10 minutes a week with,
right.
With real estate.
Right.
That's a bunch of bull. There's no such thing as making that kind of money without hard work and being extremely lucky and good at what you do. I'll tell you something else that I've always believed in.
Mm-hmm.
I've always believed in follow up, follow up, follow up. I will say that again. Follow up, follow up, follow up. It didn't make any difference to me. When I was buying houses, I'll tell you a story, and this is a true story. When I was buying houses, I was buying about, I don't know, $200 to $300 a month. And back then, this was in the late 60s to say 75.
Okay.
Back then, the average homes in Dallas I was buying were about $17,000. So I was paying $8,000 or $9,000 a piece for them, putting about $3,000 in them, selling for $17,000, $18,000.
Okay.
And I was buying 200 or 300 homes a month from FHA. I got to be such a big buyer with FHA, and these were all FHA foreclosures I was buying. I got to be so big with FHA, they actually gave me $1 million line of credit to buy homes in Dallas, 6 months, no interest for 6 months, and then I had to pay them all off in 6 months. I bought so many of them. And that came right from HUD in Washington. But I did work hard. It didn't take me any time think about this. Back then, I could repair a house, paint, carpet, in 2 or 3 days' time on the average house. And none of them would need a lot of repair work. I mean, they were basically paint, carpet, and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So it was fairly quick to repair the houses. And FHA had a deal. If you buy an FHA foreclosure for $100 down, and they were fairly lenient in their qualifying ratio. So it wasn't exactly hard to do. I mean, in fact, it was relatively easy to do. It just took a lot of hard work because I was so busy. I had a lot of times mail out contracts and keys to houses in the mail. I didn't have time. I was working 7 days a week, and you can only cover so much territory in 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. But I made it work. I had 3 or 4 salespeople work for me. We made it work. But I'll tell you, I had this, when I was doing all this stuff, I had this book. It was a little green spiral book. And I wrote $1 million on the outside of it. And I decided I wasn't going to get rid of that book until I made $1 million from it. So if I were driving down the street and saw a vacant house or saw something in the newspaper, I'd call on that property and I would make an offer for it. And many times they go, "Oh, you're trying to steal my house." I go, "Well, I'm not trying to steal it, but I'm trying to make some money on it. I've got to buy it. I got to pay the closing costs. I got to repair it. Mm-hmm. I got to sell it. I got to pay commissions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." So I would say maybe 10% of the people that I called on the phone told me the house was what I wanted to buy.
Okay.
Another 90% wanted to think about it or didn't want to sell it or thought I was ripping them off.
Fair enough, but you kept calling and you kept moving forward. It's not like it stopped.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you one story in particular.
Go for it.
I was driving down the street in a section of Dallas called Oak Cliff, and there were 8 homes on 56th Street. This was 40 years ago. Anyway, I called Mrs. Ibley. I said, "Miss mm-hmm. Ibley, this is Mike Anderson with Century 21 Value Properties. Would you like to sell those houses?" And she said, "Yeah." I told her I would give her a cash offer. So she said, how much would you give me for them? And I told her I'd give her $80,000 for all 8 of them. And she went off on like a skyrocket. This lady was probably 75 years old. She called me every name in the book, thief, crook, said, "You're trying to steal my houses," and slammed the phone down on me.
Right. And then you?
And so I said, well, okay. Yeah. Well, and the truth of the matter was I was trying to buy them wholesale.
Right.
I mean, I was trying to make $5,000 a house on them. So, I mean, she wasn't exactly lying when she called me, you know.
Somebody
bad
trying to get it
name.
on the cheap. Maybe
Yeah.
you were trying to get it on the
So,
cheap.
so in this book,
Mhm.
every Friday afternoon about 3 o'clock, I'd start going through my book and I call everybody that I try to buy their houses from. So I called her every Friday afternoon for like 2 or 3 years. And the conversation always went like this. Miss Sibley, this is my candidate. She said, you're nothing but a no damn dirty crook, and slammed the phone down on me. So after about 3 years, my staff in law school said, Mike, what is wrong with you?
Just let it go.
And I go, that lady's never going to sell you the houses. She hates you. She thinks you're a crook. And I go, well, it takes me 10 seconds before she hangs up. It's not a big deal. So
Right.
I kept on calling her. This is when I say follow up and perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what a lot of people don't have. A lot of people do have it, but they just don't think it can happen. So I finally called her one Friday afternoon after about 5 years. It's been on for 5 years, I might add.
It's a long time. I'm just saying, it's an investment.
And so I called her on the phone and she was crying.
Oh.
And I said, oh, Miss Sylvia, what's wrong? She said, I was collecting my rent over there this afternoon, and somebody hit me in the head with a pipe, stole all my money, and drove off my new Cadillac. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, Miss Sylvia, I'm so sorry that happened. I said, you want to sell those? She said, yes, I want to sell them. So I went down there that night and signed them, and I made $80,000 on that deal on those houses. I made, because the house went up in value in that 5 years I was trying to buy them.
Sure.
So I made $80,000 on that transaction. I'm just saying that a lot of people thought I was crazy and they wouldn't do that sort of thing. But what's 10 seconds a week, times,
right.
an hour and a half,
50 weeks out of the year, 5 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even a big deal. But that's what I was telling you a while ago. Pick up the phone and call people. And a lot of times you can't, in a text, you can't get the feeling of what the person you're talking to is, whether they're mad, upset, happy. If there's any, I just think you can do a lot better. At least me, I can. I don't know about the rest of the people, but I can. And I'm assuming that well, I'm not assuming. I can tell you that there's a housing shortage all over the country. House prices going up everywhere. In Dallas Metroplex alone, they went up 26% last year. And I'll tell you, when I went on the air back in 1992, the average house in Dallas was $88,000. And the average interest rate on real estate mortgage loans was 8%. Today, the average house in Dallas is $352,000, and the average rate's around 3%. So a lot of things have changed over the period of time. But one thing for sure, real estate's going up all over everywhere. And the investors that I know tell me that it's hard to find houses, and it is hard to find houses. And I can also tell you this, and you already know this. If you're an investor, the worse shape a house is, the more work it needs to be done, the better off you're going to buy it. And then there's companies out there that sell houses, that buy them wholesale, spend a lot of money advertising for foreclosures. They go out and find houses, however they do it.
Yep. And
typically what they'll do, they'll give you what they call a value of the property, and they'll give you what the repair is, what they think is going to cost to repair. And so it looks like you're making $25,000, $30,000 house, or whatever the number is. It depends on who you're buying it from.
Right.
And what I found when I quit buying a house about 6-7 years ago because I just didn't have time. But what I would find when they would send me these values of these houses and what it costs to repair, I'd go look at them if I had the time. And typically the value they put on it was in the higher range of stuff. Let's say a house is worth $275, and they'd say it's worth $289. And it's possible you could get it. I'm not saying you couldn't, but I'm just telling you their values were high, and the repairs were always low. I could never repair a house what they had in them. So where it looks like you're going to make $25,000 or $30,000, you might make $8,000 or $10,000. I personally would never touch a house unless I made at least $10,000. And I'm talking about after holding costs. I'm talking about after expenses. I'm talking about after commissions. I'm talking about after title policy.
Yes, the stuff that actually stays in your bank account when the day's done.
It's just not worth it unless you're doing a huge volume. Now, if you're doing a huge volume like I was, you made $5,000 house, and you're doing a lot of houses a month. That's a different story. But investors these days, they find 3 or 4 homes a month, or lucky, even they find one a month. So you just got to be careful what you're doing, and constantly look for new remodelers. And what happens is, at least this happened to me. I actually had my own crews. I had about 7, 8 crews that did that work for me.
Yeah.
But when I was subbing this stuff out, if you keep on using the same remodeler, they get complacent with it, and they think, well, this guy's always going to pay what I want him to pay.
Right.
So you got to constantly check prices, and even if you want to use the same remodeler, at least get some competing bids every now and then to keep the guy honest, because that's money out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I will go back. It's just hard work, and when I found investors that I make loans for right now, there are a lot of investors that are buying stuff for cash flow.
Let's talk about Reliance. So you guys work in what areas? Where do you guys fund? And tell us what you fund on.
Well, almost any kind of loan you want. I mean, we do HELOC loans, USDA loans, VA loans, conventional loans, jumbo loans, hard money loans, construction loans, lot loans. We do all of it.
Okay.
But if an investor wants to buy a house, Fannie and Freddie have got a rule that they don't want you to have 10 mortgage properties.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have up to 10 properties, and typically one mortgage company doesn't want to handle that many properties with one investor. They'll do maybe 5 or 6. So you have to use a couple of mortgage companies typically. That's not always true, but most of the time it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And the down payment for investment properties is a minimum of 20% down. However, if you put 25% down, you're going to get a much better rate. They just feel like that having more money in an investment property is a saving. And that's true. Loan to value is everything. So you get a better rate. And up until today, I'll tell you what happened today.
Tell me.
Fannie and Freddie about 2-3 months ago came out with a new policy where they didn't want to make as many loans to second homes, and they didn't want to make as many loans to investors. So they started hitting those investment in second homes with 2 or 3 points, which raised the rate maybe 3/4 of a point. So up until today, they changed it today, as a matter of fact. The rates were considerably higher. Let's say you could get a conventional loan for a 30-year fixed for 30%. I mean, with at 3%.
Mm-hmm.
The investment property loans were maybe 4.5%.
Right.
Now they're going to be like 3.25% on a 30-year note, depending on credit scores and loan to values.
Sure.
Those credit scores are driving everything. So if you've got good credit, and depending on what area of the country you're in, you're going to get in the mid 3s on an investment loan, where it was 4.5% up until today. And I would definitely try to do it with a down payment of at least 25%. If you can do that. Now, if you can't do it, and you're stuck with 20% down, the rate's going to be about a half point higher.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another thing. A lot of investors I talk to, well, there's 2 or 3 types of investors. Number one, there's investors that are kind of passive in a way. In other words, they want to buy a house and they want to hold it,
mm-hmm.
And rent it,
mm-hmm.
and get appreciation and or cash flow when they retire.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that those individuals probably have W-2 income. They've got jobs, and they just want to make money on the sideline or have something for retirement. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those people, I'll talk to them, and let's say you got a W-2 income of 100, you and your wife make $150,000 a year. You have some money, you put 25% down. I'll go over the terms on a 15-year note, a 20-year note, a 30-year note. And if they're saying the 45-year, and they make enough income and maybe can feed the house a little bit, a lot of them will offer 15 years notes. And the reason they do that, quite frankly, is because when they get to be 60 years old, those houses will be paid for. Mm-hmm. The other reason they may do it is because the equity bill on a 15-year note, a 15-year note pays down 25% principal in the first 5 years, mm-hmm. and first 7% for a 30-year note. And I'm not saying for everybody, but I have a friend of mine, a guy named Tim Shanner here in Dallas, that's been buying homes for 30 years. And he hardly ever sells any of them. And he buys in a very upscale area out by Fort Worth called South Lake. South Lake appreciates a minimum of 10% a year. So he'll buy, and he doesn't particularly care if he gets a great buy on it. He's looking for appreciation down the road. Okay. So he probably owns 50 homes right now. I'd say the average home's probably worth $500,000-$600,000. I'd say he probably paid an average of $250,000 to $300,000 years ago for him. And he'll even pay close to retail for a house now because they're going up so much in value. So he's holding his for appreciation. He's not looking for cash flow particularly. He makes enough money where he doesn't look at cash flow from real estate. Although they cash flow, but they don't cash flow a lot of money for what he puts in them. So there's a case right there where he's buying for appreciation. Now you have your other investors that don't have a W-2 income,
right?
Cash flow, so they're gonna put the least amount of money down they can, finance for as long as they can, and they're going for cash flow. So there's a difference in cash flow. And let me say this: I don't care what anybody says. A $100,000 home may rent for $1,200 a month. A $500,000 home may rent for $4,000 a month or $3,500 a month. The cheaper the home, the more you're going to get rent for the value of that home.
Yes, I've noticed. And I'm glad you're saying it because not everybody's noticed that.
So, and he'll buy a $400,000 home that may not cash flow. An investor looking for cash flow would say, I wouldn't buy that no matter what. And I agree with the investor. I don't agree with either one of them. It's just different what their targets are. But the guy that's buying it for cash flows has got to have cash flow, a significant amount of cash flow to make it worth his while. And then let me ask you a question.
Yep.
You buy and sell houses, don't you?
I do as an investor.
Do you use a bank loan to buy them, or do you use a hard money lender?
I use a hard money lender to buy them, and then I rehab them, and then I refinance it.
Why do you do that?
Faster, easier. I can get more control over the property I'm buying.
And generally less money in it.
And generally less money in it. Yeah.
Because I have a lot of investors that come to me on that sort of thing. And I don't, that's one loan I don't make. I don't make hard money loans to investors. I make hard money loans. I'm carrying about $20, $30 million with hard money loans right now, all 11, 12%, 4 or 5 points.
Okay. What assets are they against if they're not to investors?
I don't want the loans turned over that quick.
Okay.
I mean, my notes are 30-year notes on a 2 or 3 year arm.
Okay.
And I adjust the rate after 3 years, but I want to, if I put the money out, I want to stay long term. I don't want to flip. And quite frankly, there are people that are making loans at less than 10% on these flips. But if you've got good credit and good income, you can go to a local bank and with 20% down, they'll let you buy a rental property. So if you're buying a house for say $200,000, putting another $30,000 in it, $40,000 in it, a bank will let you put 20% down. Some banks, depending on how strong you are, will let you actually do it with 10% down if it appraised for enough. So, and the rates on those are in Dallas they're 4.5% 1 point, instead of the 8 or 9, 10% that you're paying a hard money lender, and 2 or 3 points. So if you could do that, I would do that. I mean, I'm not saying you should do it if you're not capable of doing it, but at least check with a local bank. And I also say this.
Yes.
I do a lot of banking. I probably deal with, I don't know. I've dealt with probably 300 banks in the last 20 years. I deal with primarily maybe 8 or 10 banks that'll do pretty much what I want as long as it's reasonable. And but if I were doing what I'm telling your audience to do out there, at least if you can afford it, to put 20% down on it, to go to a bank and see if you get the money, but go to smaller regional banks. Don't go to the big banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase. They're just too big. You're just a number there. Go to a small local bank, a guy that maybe you know, and sit down and talk to him and go, look, I'd like to put 10% down on this house. It'll appraise for a lot more than I'm going to pay for it when it's repaired. And they can order an appraisal on as is and as repaired. And if the loan to value is maybe 75% of what it's worth, you may be able to get about with 10% down. I'm just saying, try it. I'll also tell you something else that I do a lot of. Let's assume that you've accumulated 10 homes and you want to keep them for a long term. Are you keeping any house for rental at all? You yourself?
Yes.
Okay. How many rental homes do you own?
Right now, I only have 4 doors.
Okay.
I used to have 50 and plus another 300, but the 300 was multi-units.
Okay. So you got 4 single family homes
right now. Yep.
Are those financed long term with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac?
No, they're financed right now with because I'm rehabbing 2 of them. They're financed with investors' money, and 2 of them I'm looking to refinance, but they're short-term rentals, and Fannie and Freddie doesn't want to see a short-term rental right now.
You mean like a B&B, Airbnb?
Like an Airbnb. Yep. Like an Airbnb.
Who told you that?
Hey, if I'm wrong, educate me. That's what I was told when I went to my broker in Indianapolis. He's like, no, I can't get you a conventional right now.
Well, if you've got a history of an Airbnb income, because Airbnbs will generally bring in more money if they're managed correctly than renting on a month-to-month basis.
I've noticed. Yeah. I've done long-term residential rentals for 20 years. And now I'm like short-term rentals. I like it better.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I want to look up something.
Okay, you got it.
You are correct. I just looked that up. But I'll tell you what a lot of people do, and that
Okay.
trust me, they do this all the time. They'll buy a house if they intend to turn it into an Airbnb. They'll put a lease on the house for 6 months.
Mhm.
And after that 6 months lease is up, and when they've got a permanent loan on it, they'll do an Airbnb.
I'm familiar with that. I've done that in my youth. I would do something very much like that. That wouldn't bother me at all. I guess I'm not in my 70s. I'm in my mid 50s. Now I'm a little like, yeah, I don't want my bank coming back at me, but hey, that's me. And I'm just,
Well,
I'm just,
they're not, it's intent. You're not going to get in trouble doing what I told you to do.
all right, it's intent. That's important. You're right. It's intent. It's
No,
intent.
There are a lot of people, like
Yes.
I've got 2 college kids that just graduated from TCU working for me. And they in the last 2 years, they bought maybe 2 houses each.
Mhm.
And the house they bought have gone way up a whole lot of money. They probably made $200,000 in equity increase in the last year alone.
Yeah.
And they'll buy a house and live in it for 6 months' time, and then they'll buy a bigger one, and that's perfectly legal. As long as their intent was to move in and they actually move in and occupy it, then they'll move up. A lot of investors get started that way, building houses. They buy a smaller one, then live there for 6 months or a year, then buy another one,
Yep.
a little bit bigger, and another one.
Yep.
And that's perfectly legal. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. House hacking is fantastic. I know lots of people who are looking to enter the field. That is the best way for them to enter the field versus trying to get trying to beat wholesalers or trying to get new at wholesaling. It's like, hey, you can start with a house hack very easily. Tell me about development in Texas. You clearly have been doing that for quite some time. You're very knowledgeable in it. You've got some solid crews. So tell me about development in Texas. What does it look like and what do people need to watch out for?
You mean like building homes or developing land?
Building homes. Because isn't that what you're doing? Aren't you building some homes and stuff?
Well, I do both.
Okay.
Again, look, I'm behind a major builder here that I say behind it. I put the money up, or quite a bit of money up. He had some of his own money,
Okay.
but I took him from building maybe 60, 70 houses a year to 300 a year.
Mhm.
And I ended up with a third of his company, and I get a third of the profit. And
Nice.
there's not a lot of profit per house, but if you build 300 homes a year and make, $20,000, $25,000 a house, is pretty profitable over the period of time. But you got to know what you're doing. And again, I want to iterate. I don't know anything about building. I mean, I like look at a set of plans, and on the big house I built, I look at the plans and I may make some changes in that. But as far as me being able to build a house, there is no way in hell that I'm capable of doing that. It's kind of like me developing lots,
Right.
buying subdivisions, or buying land and turning them into subdivisions. The lots are like my own builders or D.R. Horton or Megatel or any of the big ones, Lennar. And again, I'm buying land and development, but most of the land I buy that I'm going to develop, I'm not in the game for long term anymore. And I'll tell you the reason why. Number one, I'm 78 years old.
Right.
And enough is enough for me. And you have to sound a lot.
I'm only mid 50s and I'm starting to feel like enough is enough in some of these asset classes.
I know what you're saying. But I like working. To me, money is nice, and I live a very nice life. My wife and I have a good time. We live in a nice house, and it's paid for, so we don't have
Right.
we don't have any money issues at all. But one thing about money that if you make enough of it, you can sure do a lot of help for a lot of people, friends, relatives, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces. And if you've got the money, I don't mind helping them, buying them a car here and every now and then, or helping them with school or whatever it may be. I mean, but making money, there's a lot of good things you can do with money. I'll tell you, when my wife and I passed away, we decided we're going to leave a lot of money, a certain amount of money to our family, but we're going to give a lot of it away to friends and it's the animal control. We love animals. I mean,
Good.
we're going to give a lot of it to charity,
Good.
which I think is a good thing. But that's just me. But I like helping people a lot. And a lot of times, I don't care if any of you listeners out there that want some advice, you can call me on the phone and I'll give you the advice free. I don't care. I'm not into that. And that's another thing. If you don't know something, call somebody that knows something about it. And I use this simple word. This is Mike Anderson. I need your help. And you'll be surprised. And don't be a smart ass. Say, look, I'm getting ready to invest in this. I'm looking at it pretty strong, and I need your help. Can you tell me what you would do? And they said, sure, Mike. And you'd be surprised how many people open up to you. It's really pretty cool. So remember those words. I need your help.
I need your help. Nothing better than being able to start a conveation from that position.
Am I making any sense to you?
Huh?
Am I making any sense to you?
You're making total sense to me. Maybe it's just because I've been investing for a while, but starting with the I need your help is a perfect way to start almost any conversation when you're looking to build a relationship with somebody in real estate, because you're not coming in with this concept that you're going to do it alone. Real estate isn't done alone. It isn't a one-man show.
A while ago we were talking about when I was chasing that lady for 5 years before I bought her houses, and what she said was absolutely 100% true. I was trying to steal her houses. So it didn't upset me. I mean, a lot of people would go, oh, do you know how they talk to me? I can't believe she called me a thief and hung up on me. I go, it's just words. It doesn't mean a damn thing.
Right.
What do you care?
Right.
I mean, so, and that's not particularly thick skin. It's just smart. I mean, I don't hold any grudges against anybody. I have no animosity towards anybody. I've had people screw me out of quite a bit of money in the last 20 years. And, if you have that animosity, if somebody jerks you around or doesn't treat you right, and that's all you dwell on it, what good does it do you? It doesn't do any good at all. If you've lost money in a deal, learn from it and forget about it going down the road. You can't moan over lost money. If you bought a house and you didn't make any money, you go, I'm never buying another house, whatever. It's forget it. Get over it.
Get over it and grow up.
Yeah. And I'll tell you,
just saying, get over it and grow up and move forward, right?
I've been to a lot of these seminars where Robert Kiyosaki talked, and I was on the panel when talking to people about investments. And, it's kind of fun to me to be out there and watch these people because truthfully, I've done more real estate than all of them put together, multiplied times 100. And when they get up and start telling people, if you just buy my books and tapes, you're going to make $1 million and you won't have to work very hard. And they're only 15.
Or you won't have any problems getting it done because I'm going to show you all the secrets, and it's not going to get you in the ass. It's
$1,500, and I'm telling you, it's the best $1,500 you'll ever spend in your life. It'll teach you everything about real estate. You're going to make money. Just buy the damn tapes and books. And I was in a seminar one time in Arlington, between Dallas and Fort Worth. It's called Managing Your Dollars that KRLD put on. They had Robert Kiyosaki. They had a lot of the financial planners from Wall Street. A lot of people like that. It was a pretty big deal. And they had about 5 or 6 smaller auditoriums that put people in. So they had these speakers like Richard did and people like that to talk in these little rooms. Then they had a big, huge room that seat maybe 5,000 people where they'd have the big speakers. And they put me in a smaller room. So many people came to hear me because they listened to the radio on KRLD in Dallas, and that's a CBS station, that they had to move me to the big room. So I went into this big room. There was maybe 3,000 people there. And the speaker that was right before me was trying to sell these books and tapes and all that sort of thing. And so I was looking at the people when they were doing it, because I was sitting on the stage, and about half of them were tired of hearing about this buy my books and crap for $1,500 or whatever it was. So I got the microphone and said, let me tell you what, I got some great news for y'all. I've got a book here. I don't have any tapes, but I got a book here, and it costs $1,000, and it tells you how to make $1 million in 10 minutes time. Who wouldn't buy a book like that? And everybody started looking at me like, oh no, he's up here to sell books. I go, and I said, book's got one page in it that says good luck.
Yeah. Right, because it's not just about the technique, and it's not just about the education. It is about the experience and the work and being able to show up when there's a problem.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever made easy money? Hell no, you work for it.
Always.
I would bet you work hard to make your money.
Always. We're always working. I'm always being able to use my brain, my experience, and my determination to move me forward. And real estate seems to require all three. At least that's what it seems like to me.
You know, I've always said this: you can always go get laid, you can always go to the movie, you can always go get drunk, you can always go to eat, you can always go on a date, but you can't always make money. So, you know, the difference in me and a lot of people, and I hope people will think about this. If when I was 25 years old, let's say I had a date with a hot girl that I've been trying to take out for, you know, forever, and she finally accepted the date with me Friday night at 7:00. I was supposed to pick up 7. I got a call at 6:30. I could go make $5,000 at 7:00 by going and buying a house or seeing a customer. Guess what? I went to see the customer. And I can tell you, it always worked out with the women because women like people that work. They like people that are honest. They like people that get off their butt. And it's a lot more fun going to an expensive restaurant than a cheap restaurant. And so I'm just telling you, you can always make more money. But if you have to work on Sunday, work on Sunday. It's not going to kill you.
All right. So you've already answered my last question. My last question was, what does financial freedom mean to you? And you actually already answered that when you talked about what you want to do, what you do now with money. Okay, tell me. Go ahead.
I work today because I have to work. And I say that tongue in cheek because I have to work because I've got so much debt with banks.
Okay.
And I have to keep the
motion moving forward. Right? The industry's got to keep it going.
Financial freedom to me is work because I want to work, not because I have to work. And I'm getting there. I'm there now. Where I can come in and work when I want to work and not because I have to work. And you know the problem with winning the rat race. If you win the rat race,
aren't you at the end and you're dead?
No.
Tell me.
If you win the rat race, you're still a damn rat.
Yes, and you still need something to do with your time. Otherwise, you're pretty unhappy. You're a pretty unhappy rat. I'm just saying.
And one of my favorite sayings is busy hands are happy hands.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
so being able to work because you want to work. And then it sounds like for you, part of that is being able to move the money forward. So it's doing good, whether it's to a charity or whether it's to its friend or whether it's for a car.
I have a lot of employees and I pay people very well. And then it helps a lot of people, instructing people, you know, so I think I do help the economy, but bear in mind, I'm trying to make money off everything I do. And that doesn't mean I always do that, but I will say this, that I'm very careful what I do anymore, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years. If it's not a pretty solid deal, I'm just not going to gamble with it, particularly at my age. So I'm pretty careful with what I'm doing.
Okay. You're careful what you're doing because your age, that's natural. And part of us all getting older. I'm already starting to be more careful about what I do and applying my time to better projects. But what about, I'm going to ask a totally off the wall question, maybe not. With what we're looking at as far as all these stimulus packages and the amount of inflation we're seeing, where do you think we're going? Because I think you might have an opinion on this.
I don't have a clue what bothers me. First of all,
yeah,
I think this COVID thing is pretty bad right now. In fact, I just got over myself and I've had vaccinations. And my wife and I both caught it. And we were sick, not real sick. She had a temperature, but I think the vaccine probably saved us. I've been having to go in the hospital. So,
okay.
Of you people out there that are listening to this podcast, if you haven't been vaccinated, you're an idiot.
Get your ass out there and get vaccinated.
I will repeat, you're an idiot. There is no reason in the world not to take that stuff. And I'll tell you something that really kind of pisses me off.
Okay.
You know what it costs what it costs the U.S. government for somebody to go to the hospital with coronavirus, check in the hospital?
Probably $100,000 or more per head.
$40,000 to $50,000 per patient.
Okay.
You know, and so there's no downside to getting vaccinated. I know when I'm immune, or I've heard if you get vaccinated, you're going to turn into a lizard. All this crazy crap. But go get vaccinated. Please do that.
All right. Where are we going as far as interest and inflation? What do you think?
I think interest rate's going to have to go up. All the government's keeping it artificially low. I think I think the government is borrowing so much money, they're going to keep them artificially low. Now, how much longer they can do this, I don't know. But I know that we're doing 15-year notes at maybe 2.25%.
Mhm.
Who in the hell's going to loan money for 15 years at 2.25%? That makes no sense to me.
It doesn't.
As far as inflation concerned, yes, it is here. I think the inflation is 5-6%. And I think everybody's going to start paying higher prices across the board.
Mhm.
I also think that I know there's a shortage of everything in the way of building materials, including paint,
Yep.
air conditioners, appliances, flooring, windows,
Yep.
lumber.
I just
mean,
paid $17 a board for an 8-foot fence. $17 a board to build
what
an
was it a
8-foot
year
fence.
ago? $8?
Huh? Yeah, normally 7 to 8.
Yeah.
Normally $7 to $8. I'm paying 17.
So I see a big time inflation coming.
All right. I happen to agree. Mike Anderson with Reliance Mortgage, thank you so very, very much for your time, for your authenticity, and for your opinion. We always appreciate it. This is Christina Suter with Real Estate Breakthrough Show. You can see us on Roku TV, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, of course, and tune in each week for our speaker and our guest, Mike Anderson. I want to make sure, Mike, that people can get a hold of you. And so I'm going to show your website one more time, but I also want you to share how people can contact you.
My phone number is 214-346-5201. That's 214-346-5201. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It was fun.
You got it. Reliance Mortgage in Dallas, Texas. Mike, thank you so much.